Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, today I am delighted to be opening the Acsom Charity Weekender with Kevin Graham and Andy Rafferty. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. 7 o'clock start, big, massive game this afternoon, hence the early start for you, Kev. You won't be going to Joanna D's after the game, but you might have a few libations afterwards, which is why we're going live at 7 o'clock. How are you, Kev?
I'm not too bad, Joanna D's is one of the places that we used to frequent. The bus used to park next to it, and it used to be one of the places that we used to frequent. And I think it's been shut for about 11 years now, and it's just an absolute shelly a place. But it's my dream to reopen it and for us to play a gig there.
So,
but we'll probably need tetanus shots and pest control and all of that, before we'd ever get anywhere near it.
I don't think I ever had the pleasure, to be honest.
I was going to ask, Andy, is it a place you ever frequented? I know you like the bit of the nightlife, you like bands. 11 years ago, it closed down. I wonder if time has stood still in there. And where is the sign? Where is that Joanna D sign above the door? By the way, I've got to say, before we kick off, this is the fourth Acsom Charity Weekender. Kevin Graham, you've been involved in all of them. I'm going to be explaining my relationship with you, with Andy, with music, and how this has all come together. Very, very quickly, really, I think, in the last few months. But it's an interesting tale. But why are we here? We're going to be, over the next 2 days, streaming for 24 hours. That's 12 hours today, 12 hours tomorrow. We're going to be covering the game. I put out on the socials last night and early this morning, everybody who's going to be appearing on the Saturday, it will be exactly the same on the Sunday. Why are we doing it? Well, every year there are people less fortunate than us, and we decided that because we have this platform and Celtic fans tune in, and there's a whole community of you already getting involved in the chat, so welcome to the show, then we can put it to good use. And we have managed to raise, over the entirety of Acsom's life, we've managed to raise just under £100,000. So we're going to be pushing for wee Jamie Tierney, who's a 4-year-old boy who's a Celtic fan, as is his family, and he suffers from Duchenne muscular dystrophy. He requires treatment all year round, which costs in the region of 60 grand. There is no cure, and he needs to fly all over the world to get the treatment. So we're going to be helping the wee fella. The link is underneath this video and will be underneath every video as we go through the process. And there's lots to cover. So, gentlemen, before we get stuck into this, the Celtic Cross Collective. Kevin Graham, what is it?
What is it? It started off with me and Andy. I contacted Andy to say I was maybe looking for some backing to some of my poems, and we started working on a thing called, was it BandLab, Andy?
Yeah, that's right. Are we online?
Online thing. We were just firing stuff back and forward, and it started off as a dub reggae album. But as you can see, none of us are for Jamaica, and so or downtown Kingston, so it wasn't really. It was working. It sort of ended up sounding a wee bit like Ian Brown in places, because that was the sort of vibe that we were actually going for. Then Andy,
a lot of it was kind of quite electronic as well, wasn't it, Kev, at the start, and taking lots of different kind of musical ideas and putting a bit of more of an electronic dubby kind of spin on it.
There was a whole load of samples and all of that in there as well, like commentary and all of that. But then what really changed it is when Andy says we should get your brother Paul Jazzy involved on the drums. And that's when it completely took a life of its own, Andy. And completely changed to what you're actually going to hear within the next hour or 40 odd minutes or so. And I think that's what was always meant to sound like, Andy. I think it was completely natural what it's ended up sounding like.
I think it was a bit of a journey to get to what we have here, and I think a lot of it, although you might not realise, it sounds quite like the electronic stuff that probably no one will get to hear until we release the demos in 10 years' time as part of the repackaged, remastered version. So I would say that maybe the first 2 or 3 songs that you hear, they do have lots of elements of what we did back in the day. Kevin and I just bouncing ideas back and forth, and then they moved on quite considerably once we got in and started listening to Jazzy back at the drums. And the two of us, Kev and I, realised, no, maybe we need to change the sound a wee bit to keep up with Jazzy. And then a couple of the songs, as Kev says, they actually developed quite naturally in the studio. Kev had his ideas for poems and then kind of taking it and just trying to get some musical inspiration and then taking it on for there. So it was quite an interesting process. It's one that I've never done. I've done music for, played music for a long time and never really quite the way that we've done this. So that was interesting in its own right. But I think the stuff that we've recorded is fantastic.
Listen, I'm going to explain again part of this journey of Kev writing a book, the only book of poetry on Henrik Larsson that's ever been released. And by the way, it's some canon of literature that Celtic has, Kev, but you have a book that's part of that archive. You released it. Now, let me get this right. Was it last Christmas or the Christmas before that you
2 years
released the
ago?
book? 2 years ago now.
Aye, round about now. It would have
2
been
years ago, and you've been doing live events. I think a lot of people had seen your video when you opened up the Tommy Burns documentary. Was that I was going to say the GMX. It's not the GMX. Where was it in Glasgow?
Glasgow Film Theatre, the GFT.
The GFT. I called it the GMX. That's just, again, because I do think there's a baggy vibe to some of these tracks. That's me thinking about Manchester. I've got to say to everybody, I've got all the tracks uploaded onto this stream. I have never played music on the stream, so we're diving in absolutely blind, and I hope that they work, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, we're just going to build up the tension and then let you down. Tony Cassidy, people are going to be coming in on the comments. As always, Tony Cassidy, great to see you in here. Hail, hail, and God bless us, one and all, especially wee Jamie on this fine day. Yes, the link is live. It's underneath this video. We're raising funds for wee Jamie Tierney. Great to see you, Joe, and others joining the stream. Our very own Lloyd is in there as well. I hope you are setting yourself up for a fine weekend, every single one of you. Get involved in the chat, and of course, the guys are going to be interested to hear what you think of the tunes now. I was sent a playlist. Now, as I said, in the last wee while, because obviously these things take a while to grow and all that kind of stuff, but in the last wee while, it's gone pretty quickly, Kev. Now, can you confirm, because I've seen some artwork, I'm not going to release anything just now, artwork-wise, but is it a Henrik Larsson EP that you've written? Is that what it's called, the Henrik Larsson EP?
Well, it's a HL EP, and obviously it is and it isn't, because it is a Henrik. It's based on Seville. And it's based on a fan's view of that journey to Seville. But it's, even though some of the lyrics do appear in the book, they're completely different because it was quite realised. I quickly realised that the music that was getting produced deserved something original, and I didn't realise until I listened back to this other day that there is a massive story arc in it. Which I didn't mean. Well, if I meant it, it must have been subconscious.
You meant it all along, Kev. You genuinely did. I'm convinced of that.
But I didn't realise.
Far more artistic if you did mean it.
I didn't realise how strong it was until I listened back to it the other day, which was quite a weird thing. We going, wow, the folk, because I was on the school run and I was sitting in the school car park listening to me swearing. And it was quite an unusual. All these parents were looking at me. I'm going, this is good, by the way. This is good.
Absolutely. But I'm going to say there is a few wee swearies in there. So parental advice. Mm-hmm. There's the big warning at the beginning of the show. After this particular show, we say an hour, but you know what? It might run over a wee bit. We are actually going to be, Kevin and I are going to be jumping onto the next stream with Chaz and UK Burden for a Shane McGowan tribute. I know that Andy Raff would be up for that as well because you're music daft. But I'm going to say, Kevin and I, obviously, episode 1, A Celtic State of Mind, 2017. Kevin and I recorded that at the kitchen table in my gaff, Kev. And since then, obviously, we have gone through that whole process, the highs and the lows, with supporting Celtic, mainly highs, but a couple of wee dips. Andy, I don't even know if you remember this, but I was in my big brother's flat probably 15 years ago, and you were over from the Netherlands visiting some of your pals and Jimmy Barker and all that, and you were in his flat, and that was the first time I met you. Since then, I've met you at gigs, at Acsom events. You've helped with Acsom. You're part of the chat group and all that. So that's how these kind of things just kind of come together at times. You know, the timing's brilliant. Andy, before we actually do a little check to see if the audio's working, tell me, I know this is a bit lazy journalism, throw in some band names, some influences. What should the audience expect when we start playing these tracks?
Oh, that's a good question. We were talking a little bit about it in the studio, because it's difficult when you're in the rehearsal room and you've just got a massive amount of noise. It's difficult to kind of take a step back and actually hear the songs, if that makes sense. And I think Kev in particular went that through process when he was looking at rewriting his words. And I'd be sitting there watching him thinking, hang on a minute, you've got all these words in your book, why are you changing them? But as Kev says, there was a real process to that. He really wanted to develop that. As far as the musical influence is concerned, I think there's a bit of that kind of Manchester vibe that you talked about. I think particularly on one of the first tracks that you'll hear, particularly in the way that I think that Kev delivers some of the vocals. So a bit of sort of baggy kind of Happy Mondays feel to some of it, not all of it. There's one moment in particular where I think Kev refers to something like Queens of the Stone Age a little bit further down the line in terms of the tracks that you'll hear. There's a particular part that I play in the bass that I never thought of it at the time, but to me it feels like the Clash. So I'm almost like there's little Easter eggs in there I think they refer to. So maybe some of the listeners can try and pick up, oh, that's the bit that you meant there, that's the bit that you meant there, that's the bit that you meant there. I think overall though, it's the Celtic Cross Collective, and that's what it boils down to. It's a sound that we've created. I think the three of us and Gasper from that helped us in the studio, we're really proud of it. I think it's I really hope the listeners enjoy it.
I hope they can hear it and then enjoy it. Right, I'm going to do a wee test here. These are some sound effects that are already on the system that we use. Kev, I want you to choose which of the following do you want to hear? Into Space, Lo-Fi, or Feeding the Ducks?
Oh, Lo-Fi, yeah, it's got to be
right,
the Lo-Fi All-Stars. Eh?
Tell me if you can hear this. You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you also hear me talking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So what we'll do is we'll play the songs in this way and we'll mute us three. All right. I'll get us all muted and then we'll play the songs that way. Oh, I quite like that in the background. That's just chilling. Everybody, maybe not a good idea at 7 a.m. when Kev's still in his underwear, his underpants.
I've been up all night tanning the wine gums because I'm a rock and roll star. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Right. I'm looking at the playlist here. Andy, you sent me it earlier this morning just to make sure I get this right. The first track is Rastafarian, Kev. Mm-hmm. Shall we just listen to it and then
we can
have a wee chat about it? Right, I'm going to mute. Well, even work if I mute it. Right, just sit nice and quiet. All right, here we go. I don't want to tempt fate. Here goes. This is the Celtic Cross Collective with Rastafarian.
Football gives you that feeling of being born again. Every week it felt like he was heaven sent, giving you life like your first breath. Feelings that you will never forget. He made you higher than your first kiss. You thought that he would never miss. We used to sing all night and day. He makes us happy when skies are grey. You would walk 1,000,000 miles for one of his goals. You would sell the devil all of your soul to relive the games that he turned to gold. The Rastafarian. Our Europe, we hung with banners, singing songs about our great attacker. We went for Shearer, but he's a wanker. Please don't take my Larson away. You would walk 1,000,000 miles for one of his goals. You would sell the devil or your soul to relive the games that he turned to gold. The Rastafarian. We went for Shearer, but he's a wanker. We went for Shearer, but he's a wanker. We went for Shearer, but he's a wanker. Please don't take my Larson away. A billion miles for one of his goals. He would sell the devil all of your soul to relive the gains that he turned to gold. The Rastafarian, you would walk a million miles for one of his goals. You would sell the devil all of your soul to relive the gains that he turned to gold. The Rastafarian.
Oh, we'll just keep
Oh, we're
playing.
getting a reprise.
We're all right to speak over it this time. No, listen, we're getting some feedback in. I think it's brave. It's one of these things that is very brave to put yourself out there. It's like that when you write your book, Kev. You will have had this feeling where you do all this work in the background, and all of a sudden, this thing's out there, and people can love it, they can hate it, and they can go online and talk about it and criticise you and praise you. You just never know where it's going to go. It's not going to appeal to everybody. But some brilliant feedback coming through. Kevin Graham, how did that feel listening back after all this?
I'm proud of that, man. I'm really are, and it's amazing what it actually sounds like. That's out of Norton now, Andy. That's no ours anymore. It's no ours anymore. But it sounds great, man. And I just want to thank Finbar Fury for allowing us to use the Lonesome Boatman, which was great. And we got a nice wee message for his wife Sheila. Actually wishing luck to wee Jamie's family and wee Jamie and that. So it's great that he allowed us to use it, use that wee bit, or we would have probably would have been in a bit doo-doo. But it's brilliant listening.
Might block us. They still might block us, Kev. It's a difficult world, is the world of YouTube and copyright and all that. But that's amazing.
Well, Mr. YouTube, I've got an email from Finbar Fury's wife Sheila telling me that I'm allowed to use it. Well, that we are allowed to use it, and we are crediting Finbar Fury when we actually do release it as well. So that completely has got a Happy Mondays vibe. But when I first started doing it, it was Stella 5B Ian Brown that was going through my head.
All right. Mm-hmm. Well,
when it was very electronic.
This was one of the early ones, wasn't it, Kev, that we were kind of talking about and trying to put together. And then, as we said earlier on, you get it in the studio and it completely changed. I think originally, through that app we were using, you could play a bass line, but you were actually just hitting your phone to play it. So you weren't actually playing the bass in live. And I came up with that sort of bass line that you hear, but then actually going back into the studio and then doing it on the guitar, doing it on the bass, and Jazzy pounding the drums. It just completely changes it.
Mm-hmm. No, it sounded brilliant. I have actually, since you sent me it, I've been listening to it, like you say, Kevin, just thinking I can get right into this. I think the favourite lyric, correct me if I'm paraphrasing here, all our Europe we hung out banners. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that the lyric? Brilliant, yeah. Absolutely great. I'll not ask you to repeat the Shearer lyric, Kev. But we're about 20 minutes in actually, so we're going to have to dive into the next song because I thought it was brilliant. Let us know in the comments, and we'll also let you know, Kev, Lloyd Jepson's wondering when it's out in vinyl. We'll be speaking about how it's going to get released, where and why, and all of these things as well. It's great to know that these songs actually work. We're going to dive in. So is this then an introduction then, Kev? We've signed Henriklson. This is the guy. He's in the club, and then we move into, as you say, the Seville journey now.
Yes, that's basically it. The boy realises that we've got an absolute genius in the first song, and it's a guy who hasn't looked like any sort of Celtic player before, and it's just, I mean, you look at the iconic imagery of him running away after scoring in the 6-2 games, and he's got the dreadlocks and the bandana and stuff like that. That's up there with the front cover of Legend with Bob Marley. As a Rasta, ain't it? So I think that's where I kind of got the whole sort of Rastafarian theme for.
I think for a wee while I was calling it the Lonesome Fenian, just because we kept using that wee sample over and over. We ended up confusing ourselves what it's actually called. But I think Rastafarian was the right choice.
Yeah, definitely. I would actually say, if you're talking Bob Marley record covers, Kev, maybe even Uprising would
Aye,
work,
maybe,
because
aye.
that season felt like an uprising with O'Neill coming in. That was a proper marker. Martin O'Neill, in his book, and also when you hear him live, always points out, he loves talking about the 6-2 game, but he always points out they beat us 5-1 later on in that season as well. And I think he does that because he wants people to know that we were up against a quality side. He said that when he first came in, they're the benchmark. Was it a 21-point swing to win that league? And he always comments on the fact that we actually got beat 5-1 later on in the season, because on their day, obviously, even in that season where we won the league, they were a quality side. Now, you'll remember, Kev, you and I being on a stage in Glasgow with the one and only Brian McClare, who had his own take on whether or not we should call this football team Basel or Bal. He says back in the day it was Basel, and then obviously at some point it's changed. Could you tell me, what is the title of this song?
It is FC Bal,
All right.
because that was it did have the working title of FC Basel Faulty. Andy quite rightly reined me in on that one and says, no, we'll just call it FC Bal. Well, that's it. Also had the working title Stay Positive as well, but you'll get that when you actually hear the lyrics.
Well, here we go. Anybody who thinks back to the Seville run knows that it didn't start off great. So here we go. This is FC Bal.
Who the fuck are FC Bal? $56,000 voices now expect, and that's a heavyweight demand. When arrogance has replaced respect, pouring through the stands, and it's no longer just dreams. He's driving into the net. It's an inflated sense of worth that will only lead to hurt. 'Cause we've had a taste of the promised land. It now must be a yearly fix. No come down, no substitute. How can we be positive? Do we deserve to be there? A missed penalty in, the floodlights dim. A broken mirror, reflection stares. The morning will be in. 'Cause we've had a taste of the promised land. It now must be a yearly fix. No come down, no substitute. We have to stay positive. But someone must score. O'Neill shouldn't be banging his fists on the ground. The Champions League should be ours. European defeat shouldn't come round. 'Cause we've had a taste of the promised land. But the FA Cup will be nice. 'Cause with you, dreams never unravel. We just learn to live twice. 'Cause we've had a taste of the promised land. But the FA Cup will be nice. 'Cause with you dreams never unravel. We just learn to live twice.
Nice.
Got to get that guitar echoing out at the end.
Definitely,
yeah. And I should have warned you, there is a few wee swearies here and there. But when that started, it took me by surprise, Kev. I thought you were doing a voiceover live when that song started after a wee conversation about Bal. I think that was the one, and I'm talking early Mondays, Andy. That was the proper, that how you've got the commercial Happy Mondays, and I think that probably happened by album 3 maybe. That was more kind of the proper baggy, loose Mondays that when I listen back now in hindsight, I love that early Happy Monday sound, Andy. Even though you can tell why they became commercial, and that's what kind of propelled them. But I love that kind of earlier vibe that the Mondays had.
It's that kind of sort of winding, jangling, shiny kind of guitar, but the kind of the rhythm as well. So again, this was one of the ones where Kev and I started off, and it was very much electronic based. And again, you'd probably be surprised to hear, but it actually sounds quite close to the electronic version, the way that kind of that staccato rhythm comes from. And I think it just kind of keeps you on your toes in that sense. It doesn't progress the way you might think it would. It just got a good, slightly different rhythm to it. And when Kev came in and he kind of picked up on that, the way that he delivers the vocals as well, it makes it sound another cracker, as Michael says.
Another cracker. Thanks everybody for your feedback. I mean, if you think about the situation we're in at the moment, Kevin Graham has, in the last 6.5 years, started performing live as a spoken word artist, as a poet. He's written a book on Henriklson, a poetry book on Henriklson, and now you are writing music, you're singing songs, you're releasing songs, you're collaborating with Finbar Fury, Kevin Graham, the last 7 years. How did that happen?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's all down to Acsom, really. It's all down to this platform gave me the confidence to actually just go and do stuff and no bother what anybody actually says about it.
Yeah, well, that you've got to have that. You've got to have that if you're releasing anything, don't you?
Aye. I mean, I've got a bucket list that I'm sort of ticking off as I go along. And so I've only got to play up front for Celtic now. And my 15-year-old childhood dreams. So that can maybe happen today. I'll maybe get Jerry to phone Brendan for us. Well, see if I can come on as a sub today.
The thing happens in mysterious ways, Kev, because Jerry has indeed represented Celtic, managed by Brendan Rodgers. So it can happen. You never know. You just never know in this world. Marquis is it Marquis Smith? I think there's a wee bit of Marquis Smith in your delivery. So anyway, Marquis beats Saturday Morning Cartoons. And Rich, we are in a different studio now, Rich. So we've moved. We're no longer in Dalkeith. And that has given me 72 hours a month back, which, basically was staring into the distance of the city bypass. So 72 hours a month on that bypass has now diminished, and I don't have to do all that nonsense. And I can spend a lot more time listening to the Celtic Cross Collective, which is what we're doing right now. Sean, absolutely happy heavenly birthday, Tommy Burns. Kevin did a Tommy Burns poem, and it was at the premiere of the documentary that was made by Margot McQuaig in Glasgow, and that almost for me was the first point, Kev, wasn't it? That Tommy Burns poem that you did.
That started it all off. If it wasn't for Margot and BBC Albon, that I wouldn't be doing any of that. And guys like Jim McIntosh and Stephen Watton that encouraging me and publishing my stuff. I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to go and actually try and do this. And even then, it's just I had great fun doing this. I had really, really good fun doing it. I think that's the main aim. I'm not doing it to get famous or anything. Well, we're not. I mean, we're kneecap for Celtic Daz, ain't we? We're both got Waynes. It's just a hobby that we're ticking off boxes, And like, it's when you do something like this, and it's the same with podcasting, but especially this, I'm really, really proud of this because this was really, really my comfort zone. And going into a studio on Sunday there, first time, well, I've been in the studio with you, Paul, recording a podcast and that, but this was completely different. And I loved it, and it's great to hear the great feedback in that. With that last song there, as I say, at the time when we were beat off FC Ball, there was a bit of arrogance because we had done great in the Champions League the year before, and folks say, we're just going to go and they were last 16, blah, 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 we're this and that. Then Ball came and handed us our arses, basically, and there was a lot of mumping and moaning. Then all of a sudden you get to the next game, which was Sedova, and we beat Sedova 8-0 at Celtic Park, or 8-0. Our 2 legs, and everybody's going, this UEFA Cup could be all right. And the next thing you get the Battle of Britain against Blackburn, and you're at that point you're all in on the UEFA Cup.
I've heard so many tales. I wasn't down at the Blackburn game, but again, speaking to Martin O'Neill about it as well, it was obviously a famous night, and every single one of them was in this run to Seville. The next song up, as you said, Kev, I've just got it listed as Blackburn. So you want to have a wee listen to that?
I think this one's got a lot of stories as well.
This is like any story arc in a script must have a villain, and this is a villain, definitely. And it's
Can
tongue in
anybody
cheek.
guess? Anybody guess who the villain is? Right, here we go.
We weren't down for long. Drunk in despair, didn't find a permanent home. As the bold Battle of Britain headlines created a fairy tale of their own. The hatred he wanted is drowned by passion. Spirit souls return to watch the game. They orb the floodlights knowing love Irish triumphs hate. You said it was men against boys, but now you're living in our noise. Most crass comments left shite in your moustache. The work of the devil in your soul. They will always leave a bitter aftertaste that your evil will never control. But unwavering support of your aim never leads to strife. You fuck off back to your 4,000 home, and we will live a day in our life as those with official tickets and those with fake tickets and those with no tickets. Sing.
If anyone would like to disagree with that last lyric, let us know in the comment section. Kev, absolutely, that for me has got the whole Brian Jonestown vibe about it. Do you get a wee bit of that, Andy, when you're listening to that?
I suppose listening back, particularly that switch over time from a sort of quieter, more restrained to just going pretty nuts at the end and getting the crowd in. I had about 1,000 people in the studio chanting away at the end there just to kind of back the vocals out. So yeah, absolutely, it was good fun recording that. Good fun recording it all, but that one stands out.
Are you on the backing vocals at the end as well, Andy?
Yeah. I think your brother's in there getting it loud, as they would say, but definitely. I think that. I mean, to be fair, that was the effect that we wanted.
I think Andy's frozen there a wee bit, Kev. So the effect, what was it? Just like a chant at the end? The fans coming together?
Yes, it was. So it's kind of, it was Gasper who actually... He's back. Oh, was he back?
Am I back? Nah. I'm just going to say, it's like, we recorded 3 of these, didn't we? And then we went back and recorded it again. And then we went back and recorded it again. We just kept layering it and layering it to get that kind of crowd effect. I think that's what we were going for, wasn't it, Kev, in the end of it?
Definitely, it was meant to be like the crowd singing it after Henrik had scored the first goal at Ewood Park, and we were putting them out. It's the lyrics are very half man, half biscuit. Just take somebody and poke fun at them for no reason. And must admit, Souness was an arse during that period when we were playing Blackburn, deliberately so.
Still he was playing.
Well,
what's changed?
He was trying to use his pantomime villain sort of hanging it as a kind of wee song, just poking fun at the pantomime villainness that football throws up every now and again.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the next stage, of course, Kev, could be having some crowded people shouting that back at you. That would be tremendous, and hopefully I'm there to witness that as well. Joe Hamilton, a lot of talent in the house of Acsom. A certain thing happened last week whereby I was asked onto the BBC podcast, and who was presenting it, Kev, none other than Amy Canavan. It was phenomenal to see. And I know whenever I post anything out there, with the mere mention of the BBC, you get stick because nobody wants you to be dealing with them. But when you're an aspiring young journalist like Amy was on Acsom a few years ago, and you see her growing and flying like that, it's just wonderful to see. So absolutely, if there's any talent, what I'm not trying to say is that they're going to leave us. Talking about Tony Cassidy, hopefully this guy won't leave us either. Matt O'Reilly, yeah, how about that piece of skill, Matt? Absolutely tremendous. The composure to then actually find his man. Celtic news is going to drip in and out of the stream today to find his man. And the man in question, guys, apparently we're going to punt him in January. What did you make of that? I'm talking about Lagerbielke, not O'Reilly here.
It's a strange one, eh? It's a really, really strange one that Kennedy was a... I've just had a read of Kennedy's comments earlier on this morning, eh? It's a strange one. He says, we've got a lot of numbers at that position, eh? And it does make you wonder whether it's something to do with Starfelt's agent. It's got to be, eh? It's got to be something to like, we'll sell Starfelt and I'll bring in this other boy. And Celtic have really went, oh, that's great, he's a Swedish Player of the Year, blah, blah, blah. And the coaches have had a look at him and went, if we can flip him quite quickly, then we will do, because we'll probably get our money back on him. Eh? It's a shame. It just shows you the absolutely rubbish nature of our scouting and how we actually do recruitment.
See, the thing, Kev, the way I see it is, as fans, and when we're doing a daily stream, I mean, today we're going to be doing 12 hours of talking about Celtic in various different forms. But you look at a situation and you don't have any inside info. I'll give you an example. Syed Haksabanovic, all season this time last year, he's winning Player of the Month awards in Scottish football. And I don't think his talent was deniable. I mean, he's a talented guy. He made his debut again in Sweden as a 15-year-old, made his senior debut. We get him because his last move didn't work out in the situation with regards to the registration of Russian football clubs. So Ukrainian football clubs. So what then happened was we have a player with talent. He isn't getting a game. There's a new manager comes in. He puts out an Instagram post, and then he's emptied to Stoke. So as football fans, you can then surmise Brendan Rodgers wasn't happy with your application, your attitude, and he's booted you out. So you don't always have to have the inside info or the inside take. And it was a wee bit like Compare, our pal that we were at the Scottish Cup final with against Motherwell, Kev. He comes in, he plays 80 odd minutes of a football game. You could probably from that summarise that Brendan Rodgers didn't sign the player. And I'm getting kind of similar vibes with Lagerbielke. He comes in, £3 million, doesn't get played for weeks and weeks on end after that emergency period. And now there's talk of us shipping him out. But as you say, in the period that he's come to Celtic, he's won the Defender of the Year award in Swedish football. He has scored his first goal for the Swedish national team. He scored in the Champions League. Celtic will probably be able to flip that and get their money back. So we've been going on a wee journey this morning. We've brought in this guy, Henriklson, with the Dreads. And obviously we've played a few songs now. We've been knocked out the Champions League at the hands of Bal or Basel, delete as appropriate. And then we've gone to Blackburn. And it was billed as a Battle of Britain of sorts. And Graham Souness obviously came out with the Men Against Boys comment, which I heard in the lyric. I also heard, was it 4,000 holes? Did I hear that in the lyric, Kev?
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
Lovely. There's a couple of wee nods to other things in all these songs because it's what I do. It's really just you've got to get the pop culture in it. Eh? You've got to have that wee hook in it. Eh? And as well, you've got to remember if the folk maybe will go, oh, you're quite hard on Souness there. You're quite hard. Henriklson swore post match live on the BBC after that game.
Well, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for you.
Aye, it's fair game as far as I'm concerned.
I can remember being in the studio when we were rehearsing, and for a while we were kind of struggling to find where we would kind of change, like from one bit of the song to the next bit of the song. So what I started doing was I would go round to where Kev was standing, where he had all his lyrics set out, and I would be following it and saying, right, okay, we're getting there. And that's when I would know, right, I'd give Jazzy, the drummer, a nod, right, we'll change into the next bit of the song. But the more I was doing that, the longer and bigger a smile I was getting in my face when I was actually getting a chance to read what Kev had written, what Kev was saying. Because again, when you're in the studio, there's that much noise around you, you don't get a chance to appreciate it. So going through that process of seeing and understanding what he was singing in that one, again, you see the back to your 4,000 holes and we will live a day in our lives, and you just walk away with a massive smile on your face because you finally get where Kev's going with the lyrics, and then obviously hearing it now makes it even better.
Oh, definitely.
Fanny
wants a vinyl release as well, Kev.
I'm surprised that we didn't hear Jazzy laughing, Andy, because I don't think he could keep a straight face when we went into that bit. Like
yeah,
he was,
true,
and even when he was trying to do the backing vocals, I thought he was going to explode.
Doubling over with laughter.
Yeah, listen, a couple of requests for a vinyl release. I know it's not cheap these days to get the vinyl out, Kev, because when everybody thought vinyl was dead, loads of vinyl plants shut down, and it's now like big business again. So Franny Weldon, Femori and Lloyd have both been asking for vinyl. Hopefully one day we will see that. I do also have a kind of ambition at some point to release a physical release of The Glory and the Dream. So hopefully we can do that as well. Why not? 2024. Patrick Harold, brilliant, Kev. Absolutely brilliant, he says. And Anthony Beattie as well. Let's not forget, good morning, Acsom. Raising loads of money this weekend for a brilliant cause. We are raising funds for wee Jamie Tierney. Now, the link is underneath this video. All you have to do is click on that, and if you are able to make any kind of donation. Why we're raising funds? Well, the wee fella's got a condition called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. There is no cure, and the treatment costs a huge amount of money every single year, 60 grand every single year to be treated, and the wee guy needs to get flown all over the globe for his treatment. And if you have a wee look at that GoFundMe page, which has been set up by his parents, I think it's sitting, I'm just double checking, 51,057 at the moment. So you can see how difficult it is to get up to that 60,000 target. But already I can see that since last night when we've been putting out the links, the donations have started coming in. So thank you, every single one of you. I know it's a tough time of the year. At the best of times, anybody who's able to chuck in a couple of quid, it would be appreciated. And we'll be pushing that all weekend. Time for another tune, lads. As I absolutely thought would happen, we might end up running over a wee bit, but that's all right because it's Kev and I that's on the next stream anyway. So we're not going to really upset anybody. And Chaz, I know for a fact Chaz would enjoy this. Right, we're moving into Boa Vista, lads. Is that right? Song 4 on the EP. You want to have a wee chat about that before we press play?
On you go first, musical maestro.
Musical maestro, don't know about that. I think like each of the songs, it's a slightly different kind of style, slightly different kind of approach in terms of the music that we're playing. And I think this one reflects on the lyrics as well, but I think the kind of the tension this particular match, or particularly the second leg, I should say. I think that's what, from a musical perspective, I think that's what we try to represent in the song. There's not, like the last few songs, there's lots of loud components to it in terms of dynamics, and they're up and down a little bit, whereas this is pretty, you can feel it, for me anyway, and that's what I try to bring over. You feel it right from the start, and I think that's probably the goal with this particular song, certainly from a musical perspective, just to kind of give that the tension that we all felt, and even like the release, it wasn't, to me, certainly personally, I don't know how other people experienced the time, but it didn't feel quite like that at the time. It didn't feel like a release, if you get me, which maybe sounds a bit daft, but that's kind of how I remember it, and that's again what I tried to put over from a musical perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. Anyone who was surprised, Kevin, about your comparisons between a former Rangers manager and part of a horse's anatomy, is there anything we need to know about this song? Is anything going to shock us?
I think this is the only one that doesn't contain swearing.
This is the one without the sticker, the parental advisory sticker. Brilliant.
Look, I had to keep it real, man. I had to keep it like
this is your art, exactly.
I mean, it's like, it's football songs. We're football fans. A football stadium is no a sterile place. If you take your reins, they'll hear stuff that you didn't want them to hear. So I think that's like we're on the march with Ali's army and stuff like that. Was the real? You know what I mean? Let's keep it real. Let's keep it relatable.
The Celtic rap. Let's go.
And that was the real.
I know. This is by the Celtic Cross Collective, Boa Vista.
Spring sunset hour, Celtic Park. The Colts have went forward, but time has turned back. To when the cream of Europe were on our path, and Henrik was on the way to immortality. He's brave enough to take these steps. His inspiration for getting out of bed. When the lullabies and battle cries are so loud, our opponents stare at the ground. We never wanted to stop. Moments like this can't be bought. We melt back into the Spanish dream. So near we can feel the heat. Hands on hips, heat to the sky. Another penalty miss stings the eyes. He is consoled by our lullabies. He is inspired by our battle cries. You will send us the solace we seek, divine intervention we didn't need. You are writing this Bible scripture while the haters need to adjust their telly picture. As soon as that ball starts spinning, the goalie's hand is not going to stop us winning. And our dreams will not be dismissed. Every spin is like a true lover's kiss, and the world seems to stop. And the world seems to stop. But we keep spinning. But we keep spinning. But we keep spinning to Seville.
Different vibe on that. I really enjoyed it. Loved it, actually. Yeah, I can see where you were coming from with that. Andy saying that it's a completely different sound. Sorry, Kev.
That's the one that sounds more Scottish. There's a very Arab strap sort of Moog vibe to that. I don't know whether it's the way I say a couple of lines, but Aidan Moffat has jumped out to me a couple of times. And it wouldn't have worked. I don't think this EP wouldn't have worked if I hadn't sung in my own accent, because there's some things that I managed to rhyme that shouldn't rhyme if you're talking in the normal
vernacular.
Vernacular, So Thanks to Arab strap and guys like that in Las Vegas and guys like that who showed it's all right to sing in your Scottish accent.
I remember that though, when Las Vegas started getting a bit of a name for themselves and saying to my big brother, who plays drums on this particular EP, how good is it to have somebody who's not the Proclaimers singing in their own accents, Andy? I mean, it's like, I remember, again, going back, massive fan of the Roses, Ian Brown used to speak about it. You know, you can't try and ape Elvis. You've got to be yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's one of the fantastic things that comes across in all these tracks from Kev. I do think, on the other hand, a lot of the music that I was into when I was younger, and I'm still into now, and a lot of the style of music that I would typically write and get involved in, it's that sort of Bells Hill, Glasgow, come West Coast of America sound, and you naturally adopt that sort of almost kind of California West Coast kind of accent because it kind of fits the style of song that you're singing. And you end up sounding like you come from San Francisco as opposed to Cumbernauld. But yeah, the ability to write in your own vernacular, to deliver in your own vernacular, and I think that comes in the music as well because you develop your own style, and it's part of where you're from as well. Although I think one of the comments I made about this one is, if you remember, Kev, the moody little brother of Rage Against the Machine's Renegades of Funk.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a wee bit of a vibe there as well that I quite like. It's like I say, they've had a really bad day as opposed to a bad day, and that's what they've come away with.
Well, I love it. I absolutely love it. And Kev, the thing with singing or talking or delivering your spoken word in your own voice, I mean, that for me, it's got to be in your own voice, isn't it?
It has got to be. Sometimes you can go in, and I went through a sort of, I hate saying the word journey because that's copyrighted with folk who didn't go through journeys. There is like, for the start to the end of this, it completely changed the way I thought about. I ended up in the studio last week, no thinking about it. It was coming out the way it was. I was going to do it the way it came out there and then, in the 3 or 4 takes. Well, it was only 2 takes that I eventually had, and it is what it was going to be, and this whole project's ended up that way. There hasn't been any one of us pushing it in any sort of direction. It's just it's utterly natural the way it's turned out, and that's the way it should be. There was no pretensions. Maybe there was ideas of it's going to sound like this and sound like that, but it doesn't sound. It sounds like me, Andy, and Jazzy. That's it.
I think if you'd ended up sounding like Kenneth Wolstenholme in the studio, you'd get some funny looks off me and Jazzy, to be fair.
Aye. I see folk like praising me in the comments. This is a team effort. This is a collective effort. This is the genius of all of us. And Andy on the guitar and bass and Jazzy on the drums. They've turned it into something that was beyond my wildest dreams. When I first started it, and like getting in with actual musicians and doing it, completely opened my mind of what's possible for a 48-year-old guy who with 2 Waynes and whose one Wayne is about to probably appear and on the stream at any given moment.
Will he be singing the Graham Souness line though? That's what we all want to know.
He better not be, or he'll be grounded. So these dads allowed to sing that.
Yeah. But you've been playing it in the car, Dad. You know, it's all right. What's good for you is good for me. Tony Cassidy. McGowan also saying a potential of Lager to be sold in January. Yeah, it's pretty clear to me that the gaffer doesn't think he suits his style of play, doesn't rate him, whatever it might be. I was delighted for Lagerbielk the other night. I thought, he's coming for a bit of stick. Also, what is lost in the fact that O'Reilly's control and pass was so good. So too was Mikey Johnson's cross-field pass. I said that yesterday. I thought it was a brilliant ball by Mikey Johnson to pick out Matt O'Reilly. He was asking a lot for O'Reilly, but we know what he's capable of. Matt with his socks hanging down at his ankles. Brilliant. Joe Hamilton, brilliant track, says Joe. Tam Mack, catchy wee riff in the background. And you're getting into the old Graham Souness lyric as well. We've got one more song and 5 minutes to play it, so let's go back to the playlist here. Boa Vista, the final track is called King of Kings. Kev, tell me, where does this take this journey? You said it first, so I'm going to run with
it. It starts at the airport, and how a Celtic fan can't believe that, Celtic fan of my age, or of all our ages can't believe that you're standing in an airport going to see Celtic in a European final. And it just talks about that European final and how even now there's two guys that are remembered in that final, Henriklson and Jose Mourinho. Nobody remembers who scored for Porto. They just remember the winning manager and the best player on the pitch that night. So it's a fan's point of view, the journey of how. And I've said it plenty of times. I didn't want to walk out a stadium losing a European final ever again. Actually, I would just take the new walking out a stadium having won a knockout stage of any bloody European competition. But it's just how your heroes can still be heroes. Doesn't matter the outcome. It's a kind of wee bittersweet thing. It's like your hero is still up there as a hero, but he doesn't get the girl at the end. So it's like a bit like The Empire Strikes Back, really.
We're waiting on the sequel. But just to show that Kevin isn't bitter, I've got a wee story to share with you. Kevin and I were on media duties at a football tournament a couple of years ago, Kev. Just before, actually, I'll tell you, it wasn't a couple of years ago, it was just before Brendan Rodgers left Celtic. This was in January. And it was one of these Soccer Sixes competitions, and there was a rest of the world team playing, and the goalkeeper, we had AAA passes, we could interview anybody we wanted, and the goalkeeper that was playing for the rest of the world was Vitor Baia, and I says to Kev, do you fancy going over and getting a few words from him? And I'll not repeat what Kev said, but it was in the same vein as the Graham Souness lyric, and he refused to interview him. So here we go. Kingy Kings is the final track on the EP.
Fucking passport. These dreams are meant to be between me and my pillow, whispered in the night. They shouldn't be waiting to board a plane in the early morning light. The airport's full of hoops, all ages, shapes and size. Trainers squeak on terminal flares, carrying red blades dice. And we're drinking to the future, singing about the past. Is this our Lisbon? There is a hurricane in our heads, supporters dancing on the stadium stairs, where he rose like the tallest tree, roots planted in our history. You're smiling a smile you can only smile after walking a million miles for a goal in a European final. That was sensational. We are singing in the present about emulating the past, cause we have our legend and it's our time at last. Now we sing through the tears about the chance just past, vowing to love our hero and the memories that last. Our heroes crumpled on the turf, and he did deliver. As a masterpiece is still a masterpiece, even Brendan Silver, and we sing. Henriklson is the king of kings. 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 Henriklson is the king of kings.
Superb.
I love when Andy gets in on the backing vocals. That was phenomenal.
And your brother's in
and
there
the big
as well.
Man, Big Jazz. Yeah, I remember the first time me and him got season tickets together. He loved a wee half-time departure to go back to the boozer, did my brother. I think he did that when Vega. Remember Vega made his debut against Aberdeen, scored 2 goals. It was a strange game. Aye, he was away at half-time. Right, favourite lyric on this song? I think this is it. Drinking at the future, singing about the past, Kev. Is that what you were? Brilliant.
Yes.
I loved that. Honestly, I thought that was phenomenal. That's what stands out for me. I love lyrics, obviously. I do. And that's what really stood out for me. Andy, it must have been like that for you when you're looking down those lyrics thinking, aye, there's loads to work with here.
Oh, definitely.
I'm surprised he could read my writing, actually.
The doctor's handwriting. I think, and again, the one that stands out for me is the one very, very near the end, Kev. Is it something like is a masterpiece still a masterpiece even when it's framed in silver? And I think that just sums up everything about that journey, doesn't it? It is something that's kind of it's etched in our hearts, it's etched in our souls. It wasn't quite the gold, it was the silver, however you want to call it, but I think that represents so much the journey, but also again, like picking a standout lyric. I think definitely for me that jumps out, and then getting to sing it at the end, and it's part of the choir. And Kev obviously he was contributing to that one as well. The three of us all sort of shouting at the top of our lungs, recreating that feeling. I think it was it was a great another great song to play on.
Phenomenal. Yeah, singing as part of the collective, and hopefully, sorry, Kev.
It was when I first came to them with this, because this was one of this last track I'm right in saying, Andy, basically came together in the rehearsal studio, and I came up with a beat. Well, I came up with sort of didn't ken music whatsoever, and I'm going, it goes and what was going through my head was Sham 69 with The Kids Are United, and it ended up sounding like The Fall. So it was meant to sound like The Fall for me, or some 60s garage band, but I was thinking that when there is an earlier version of it, which I think Andy's got on his phone, where I'm basically like Jimmy Pursey trying to do If the Kids Are United, and it just didn't really work, but this works perfectly. I think it's great. I think the five songs are absolutely phenomenal, and I'm really, really proud of them. I'm really proud of the guys, and I'm really privileged that the two guys worked with me on this. And I'd be mad to hear it playing at Celtic Park. I'd be completely mad to hear it. I don't think they would let me away with the swearies, or maybe that was deliberate. I don't know.
More bleeps than actual lyrics if they try
more
to play
bleeps it. I mean, we want to raise a lot of money. We want to raise a lot of money for wee Jamie, so we would. It will be released next year, because this weekend we didn't want to get things mixed up. So this weekend, he's going to need the money, so we'll release it at some point. We'll release it at some point next year. We want to raise quite a wee bit of money for him, and it gives you something physical as well, like, or digital as it's looking at the moment, but we're still looking at options with that. And if anybody wants to offer us like a residency in Santa Ponsa for a week, we're up for that. Scotland need us to write a World Cup song if they ever qualify for a World Cup. We're up for that as well.
It'll be more like the Irvin Welsh and Primal Scream one. Remember that for the
Eurovision. We'll have a crack at Eurovision. No problem. It's, the world's our oyster now, I think. What started off as a wee bit of a, do you think we should actually do this, has now turned into something that this will be good to actually revisit. For me, it'll be, I didn't care about Andy and Jazzy, but it'll be good for, I think I would love to revisit it at some point and maybe do some more stuff. I'm already thinking ahead. This is not even out yet, and I'm thinking about what we could actually do next. But I think, it's brilliant. I love it, and I'm quite self-deprecating at times, but I'm really proud of that body of work, and I have to thank Andy and Jazzy for that.
You should be, and hopefully Andy, he's no like Marky Smith, where he just sacks the band and then finds a new band and does another musical project under the same banner. It is a collective after all. I'm going to bring in a few of these comments before we move on to the second stream. Tamboy88, if only Tiger Tim, you might have got it played at Celtic Park. Tony Cassidy also comes in. Was it Ewood that night? We battered them. They bailed out early in their droves. Weird stand exiting together all alongside the pitch. Yes, phenomenal night. Kev, were you at that one? Were you doing it at Ewood Park?
No, I wasn't. I was watching Oasis in Braehead Arena.
All right. Not a bad second choice, Kev. And we've also got Franny Weldon Femori, half pundit, half poet. You've been called a few things over the years, Kev, so we'll take that one from Franny. What a start to the charity weekender. Kev, sorry, were you going to say something there?
Aye, when I was actually listening to them back, I wrote down the fall of half man, half Mondays on the streets.
That makes sense. That could be the name of your next EP, Kev. Great start to the charity weekender. This is the fourth year that Acsom has pulled together a number of different platforms to raise funds for good causes, and we're just under £100,000 overall. This year we're supporting Jamie Tierney. Jamie is a 4-year-old boy from Fife who has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It's a rare condition, but I just keep thinking it could happen to anybody's kid. And this wee boy needs 60 grand every single year for treatment, just for treatment. There's no cure for this at this moment in time. The family are very optimistic, and they're going to keep fighting. And hopefully by the time, obviously, the wee boy's a wee bit older, there will be a cure. That is the big hope here. But in the meantime, they need £60,000 every single year. We're going to be putting out the message here. The fundraising link is under the video. It's going to be under every single video over the weekend. We're going live 12 hours today, 12 hours tomorrow. Next up is Chaz Nuki Burden, a phenomenal author and journalist, and a mad Celtic fan with a brilliant story to tell. And Kevin and I have spoken to him in the past, but he was a massive Shane McGowan and Pogues fan. We're going to be talking about Shane, Chaz's love of the artist, and a wee bit more as well. So we're going to actually finish this particular stream and go live again on the channel. Go and, for a comfort break, make yourself a brew, have a bottle of beer if that's what you do at 8 in the morning. That's up to yourself. And we'll see you again on the YouTube channel for the next instalment of the Acsom Charity Weekend. All that's left for me to say is thanks everybody so far for getting involved, and thank you to Kevin Graham and to Andy Rafferty and the Celtic Cross Collective, Jazzy Never Turned Up, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very
Cheers.
much. Thanks, everybody.
All the best for the rest of the weekend, though.